running, Sheila?
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, start with approval of minutes. If I can find them in this stack.
December 10th.
Do I have a signature page? There we go. Approval of minutes for December the 10th. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I make a motion we approve December 10th meetings.
I have a motion by Bob. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Joel. All in favor?
Aye.
In the matter of claims, we have payroll at 304, 138 and 40 cents. Regular claims 279, 637 and 31 cents. Out of cycle claims 155, 09 and 93 cents. Total payroll and claims $738,785.64. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I make a motion we approve the claims for 738, 785.64, subject to State Board of Accounts audit.
Got a motion by Bob. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Joel. All in favor?
Aye.
Financial report, Sheila has put us out a new, to the year end, fund line report. Appreciate that. Any discussion on that, Sheila, on your end?
Change because when I printed that one out, it included all of the claims that we approved today. So these are balances as of today.
Today, okay. All right. Old business, we've got the ARPA ordinance for the radio project.
Can I start?
Yes, Dana, go ahead, please.
As it's been discussed in the meetings, the ARPA funds must be obligated by December 31st, 2024, or they must be returned to the U.S. Treasury. And so the discussions were, and the commissioners voted to put those funds to obligate them for the radio tower project. So what is an obligation and what's not an obligation? There couldn't be just a resolution or an ordinance. That's not an obligation. Adopting a budget is not an obligation. An appropriation is not an obligation.
There's nothing
Oral contracts aren't. So what can be, though, an obligation is an interagency agreement or intra-agency agreement meeting certain conditions to constitute a transaction. And so with the way that works, it has been approved by the U.S. Treasury, is to have a memorandum of understanding. And so I have drafted a memorandum of understanding regarding obligation of SLFRF funds. And it's a little lengthy, so I may go through parts of it quickly, but so this is a memorandum of understanding regarding obligation of SLFRF funds, MOU, and is entered into as of the 18th day of December 2024 by and between the Board of Commissioners of the County of Owen, local government, and Owen County Communications, which would be the agency. Whereas the local government is the recipient of state and local fiscal recovery funds, SLFRF, pursuant to the terms and conditions of the agreement entered into by the Department of the Treasury and the local government, which incorporates the provisions of the 2022 final rule and the 2023 interim final rule and the guidance that implements the SLFRF program. Whereas the local government is authorized to provide funds to units of local government and others, such as an agency, selected to undertake and carry out projects under the SLFRF program in compliance with all applicable local, state, and federal laws, regulations, and policies. Whereas the agency is prepared to provide goods or services to local government in order to mitigate the fiscal impacts of the COVID pandemic and to serve the needs of the local community, that would be the goods or services. And whereas local government and agency desire to enter into this memorandum of understanding as an interagency agreement to secure the goods or services for the benefit of the local community. Now, therefore, in consideration of the recitals and agreements contained herein, local government and agency agree as follows. Purpose: the SLFRF funds are available to provide emergency relief for natural disasters, build critical transportation infrastructure, and support community development. Scope of work that does list the local government's responsibilities as to providing the funds and the agency's responsibilities as to using them for the project. And the project is the radio project, and the principal task would be that the new system shall be a 3-tower system utilizing 2 existing towers and constructing a 3rd tower, that the new system shall completely cover Owen County and use the existing VHF channel license to Owen County. The new system shall meet P25 VHF conventional simulcast requirements, and the P25 requirement shall be based on a radio system with a common operating platform. The system shall be designed, granting 911 dispatch to have priority and preemption during emergency events. The new system shall be compatible and expandable to 100-800 megahertz channel. The new system shall be a 1-channel, not trunked, system with unlimited users. There's the conditions of receipt that the funds will be allocated or paid to agency upon agreement to perform the principal task. The time of performance, the funds are obligated no later than December 31st of 2024, which is what this does. And the principal task must be completed no later than December 31st of 2026. MOU representatives for the local government, it is the representative would be Gary Burton or the presiding president, the president of the Board of Commissioners. The agency would be Sherry Anderson, the 911 director. The budget, the local government will pass through to the agency no more than $190,988.31 in SLFRF funds for eligible incurred costs and expenses for the project. In witness whereof, the local government and the agency have executed this MOU as of the date and year last written below. And it has one place for the commissioners to sign by the president of the Board of Commissioners and a place for the 911 director to sign. And I will say that while this says that they'll pass through no more than $190,988.31, that's only of ARPA funds. It doesn't mean that the county can't fund it through other means as well. This is just how the ARPA funds would be used.
Thank you, Dan. And so everybody knows and understands, we have to close this out. If not, we're going to give this money back to the federal government, and that's not going to happen. So that's what the purpose of this is. As everyone knows, we were trying to look at about a $400,000 project on this side of things. From numbers way back when, for whatever reason, things didn't pan out or figure out the way we had thought. No guilt on anyone's part, but we have plenty of funds. First of all, the budget was approved yesterday or last night as presented. Yes, that was a very good, no adjustments to it. It was presented and approved as is. Both the commissioners and the council received an additional $500,000 in their funds. We have all kinds of money. We have a couple of different fund lines here that the commissioners oversee, and one of them is a future building fund that has $167,000 in it, and this is a future building project, the tower project. We also have $167,000 in the storage unit fund. Not necessarily have to use these funds, but I'm going to make a recommendation this morning, make a motion that we take $110,000 from the future building fund, fund line 4916, and $100,000 from the storage unit. As soon as I find that fund line, I'll tell you what that is. what is it, Sheila? 4015, to be used to make up an even $400,988 to cover this project. Now, we'll present that as is to the council. If they decide they want to take funds from a different avenue, that will be up to them. But I'm going to make this recommendation. There's been a lot of social media, a lot of crap out there, and that's what I'm going to say because it's what it is. When these numbers were presented back in February, we thought that's where we were at. Just so happens it wasn't. So the money's there. We can do it this way and still come up with the $400,000. So that's my motion, that we take $110,000 from the future building fund and $100,000 in the storage unit funds, cash balance.
I second it.
Got a second by Bob, all in favor?
Aye.
Radio project continues as is.
They need to approve the memorandum.
And yeah, so the next, do I hear a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding regarding obligation of the SLFRF funds?
I'll make that motion. But first, sure this is good. You're, okay, I'll make the motion to approve memorandum regarding obligation of SLFRF funds.
Got a motion by Joel, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sherry, I'm gonna sign this now. If you wanna come up and sign it, that way we can get it back to Sheila.
I have to have it uploaded in the same registration things. So.
Yeah, so if you could sign that and give it to Sheila, that way we can. Thank you. Yeah, just give it to her. All right, highway.
Commissioners, I really don't have anything today to bring before you. Project continue with ditching out on Patricksburg Road. The road graders are running and we are hole patching. As each and every one of you are aware, last week, I believe on Thursday, I contacted each of you and advised that I felt we could no longer leave equipment parked out and brought it all in. The reason being is just from social media and comments in regard to, I thought one was a volunteer firefighter, but I found a former volunteer firefighter said that they would drive right by our machines and let them burn. That was out on social media. Gentlemen, that wasted Owen County taxpayers' money, that wasted Highway Department's money, and just an outline of the Highway Department really quick. As my people were called on social media, those inbreds, which I take extremely offensive. Those are the people that dispatch call in the middle of the night to open those roads when that tree's down. Those are the people, whether you like the way the roads are cleaned and the salt and sand, they're the ones that go out and put salt and sand down so the roads are open. Those are the people that go out with the fire departments when the fire department calls in the middle of the night to make sure those tanker trucks get to and from a fire scene and even lead them to and from, because we've done that because the roads are so slick. Those, the Highway Department, are the people when you have nobody else to call to retrieve dead bodies out of buildings and campers. Those people are the ones, and we always respond. Men and women that we have working out there, commissioners, I feel like you could be proud of. I feel like this whole community could be proud of. Because when they're called upon to do those tasks, they do it. And yes, I'm here defending those guys today, but they've never said no. And some of the tasks that I've asked them to do, or the tasks we would ask or I've asked law enforcement officers to do back when I was in those kinds of positions. So, I mean, in regard to retrieving bodies, in regard to those types of things. Good crew that never said no, no matter what the circumstance. It is their job, don't get me wrong, but they do what's asked of them.
No, Greg, you're 100% right. Those employees out there do not get the credit that they deserve. They work all hours of the night, day, whatever it takes. For some reason, we're in a county that can't survive without some kind of controversy or turmoil. Never seen nothing like it, and it's a disgrace to our county. But it comes from people that don't normally know what's really going on, or is part of county government. And until you sit in the seats here, your seat, or other elected official seats, you have no room to judge or to make comment. And shame on those that do. I'm going to touch base on the mow trim. It's been an issue. It has been delivered. It was a purchase agreement from back in February. We have it in our possession. It will be paid for. The invoice has been turned into the auditor's office. And again, that was voted on by both council and commissioners in February of this year. And it's already been approved in the last meeting to pay out of cycle. That is correct, right, Gene? Okay. Is there anything else, Greg?
No, the only thing I'll say is there's just been so much hatred and discontent that it's sad. And the employees shouldn't have to bear the burden for lack of a better term, of decisions made by the politicians. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Greg.
Greg.
I'd like to make a comment based on that, Greg, and gentlemen, if you allow. In a lot of counties, you'll see projects such as Patricksburg Road project going on by the Highway Department. A lot of these counties have an active police officer on site during that project. And that's probably something the county should pursue in the future. I don't see why not if you've got a group of 3 or 4 gentlemen out there working, that a lawman shouldn't be with them at all times. It's sad to say, but it's fact. Go into Clay County, if they've got 4 or 5 guys working at a project, there's a lawman on site. Not for me to decide, but maybe the future commissioners should look into that kind of protection for, it's sad that we have to go to that, but that's my take on it.
No, you're right, Joe. A lot of companies, and I see it as well in my travels throughout the week.
You see
There's
it.
security companies that have been hired to protect those workers or flag, whatever it might be. And it is important. The thing that people don't realize, and Greg had just mentioned, we wasted a whole day, Friday, last week, dragging in equipment all over this county, back to the highway department to secure it, to make sure it was safe. This equipment is taxpayers' equipment. We shouldn't have to protect it like that. We've got jobs going all over the place. It's a big county. And to have to do that is a shame and a disgrace.
And
No
to have-
work got done.
And to have to take the equipment right back out
Exactly.
the next day. Road graders are not that fast of machines.
No.
It's hard to get them home and to work and back
They're
every
big.
day in an 8-hour cycle. That's ridiculous.
And again, it's taxpayer dollars. Millions of it when you add all that stuff up out there. All right, elected officials, department heads. No one, public comment. Yes.
Good morning, all, morning commissioners. Name is Jeff Marks, Fish Creek Road. You guys know that by now. Thank you, first of all, to Bob and Joel for your service, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sure we do. And I want to make a comment about the future here. Okay? I do understand there's a lot of anger in this county, and I think there's a lot of distrust in this county. And I would encourage the government of this county to look at 4 things going forward with respect to the government, and it amounts to transparency. Now, I'm not saying you're not transparent, because you sit up there and you do all this work. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying we don't actually know, we don't need to know every detail, but back to the highway superintendent's notion, we hear the statements that the highway department does a lot of work, and I don't disagree with that, but you know, showing some data would be useful. So I will give you an example, and I have shared this with the highway department before. In Greene County monthly, they display how many tons of, to the public, they display how many tons of gravel they put down, how many patches they put on, how many roads they've done, how many hours they've been out. Okay. That's available to the public. And that would perhaps help us tamp down some of this anger, because facts are our friends. But if we don't know the facts, they can't be friends to us. So I encourage transparency there. I'm sorry I've been missing for a few weeks. I have no idea what's going on with the jail. I would encourage, and this isn't your problem, but it's somebody's problem. Somebody needs to resolve this issue if it hasn't already been resolved. I don't know. The third thing relates to, and again, this isn't particularly your problem, but it is an issue that is important to the county. We need to make sure that the taxes that are assessed are fair, and that in particular things like tax increment finance district and tax abatements are well managed and end when they're supposed to end and begin when they're supposed to begin. Again, that's not your problem, but you are the executive, and hopefully the executive can say to the assessor in this case, where are we with this? Okay. You know, we have these department things at every meeting. How many times has the assessor been in this meeting to give a report? And I'm not beating up on the assessor, but at some level they are accountable. They're accountable to the citizens because they're elected, but they're accountable to the government because they do their government function. And the last one is the UDO. There needs to be metrics on when and if we're making progress on that. And I think next year, that will be an opportunity for the commissioners and the council to deal with this issue a little more deeply. I know, again, it's not your thing. It belongs to the
Planning Commission.
Planning Commission, thank you.
I'll help you.
Thank you. Planning Commission. But why isn't Norm in here every time? And he's not an elected official, but he does, you know. Things that are measured get managed. Things that are not measured don't get managed. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Sam?
Yeah, there's a jail meeting tonight at 6 o'clock at the school.
Okay.
It's a public meeting, so the jail project will move forward. I feel confident about that, but there is a meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. Testing Greg, you say that was on social media, that those comments was made to you about your staff,
Yes,
and you know who it was?
I do.
I'd like to know who that is after the meeting, please.
Yes, I'd be
Thank you,
glad to
sir.
tell you.
More than happy to.
I told him turned in sheriff.
Well, people like people and they don't like people and stuff like that, rude behavior won't be tolerated.
There's no sense in
I
it.
agree.
It doesn't do our county government a bit of good. Zero.
They don't hate and discontent is, you don't like somebody, you don't like somebody, but you don't have to post stuff like that.
Any other public comment? Sheila. And again, we are glad you're back and sitting there full-time.
You have Centerstone report that was sent in front of you. It's just their annual 2024 budget. She sent in review of what services and things they do and look through it. She sent them to the council members also. We'll get those distributed. We have, again, as Gary had said, the state late last night sent our 1782 notice. There is some work that needs to be done because everything was over advertised, but those cuts that will be made, we will be meeting. We have to have it returned to the state by next Friday. So there will be, we'll be working on those cuts. We'll get everything sent out to all the departments on what their budgets are, and if there were any cuts, some of them, again, were held to what was there. The normal, like for the highway, the local road and street and bridges and those, Comm cap was approved at $300,000. But there will be some adjustments that'll be made, and I'll make sure that everybody gets copies of them as soon as we get those done and submitted back to the state.
And as usual, appreciate all your hard work and stacks of paperwork and hours on end.
Gotta thank Polly and Anton and my staff this time. We all pulled numbers together, and I actually submitted those numbers sitting in my hospital room. I was still working on them, trying to get them to the state on time, so we lucked out. Again, we have a couple of things we need to make adjustments on, but we did receive notice.
And I appreciate that information last night. I don't care if it come in at midnight. I was happy to see it. All right. Attorney comments.
I have, would just like to inform the commissioners and the public that, as you know, a significant part of Spencer is part of the Superfund site because of releases of tetrachloroethylene, also called perchloroethylene, or PERC or PCE. And then as it degrades into other products as well. And so one of the concerns that was brought up is vapor intrusion into buildings. It is believed that the armory is above the plume. The plume is underneath the armory. So EPA had a contractor come in August and take samples. What they provided the county is not real detailed on where the samples come from, but it looks like they took like 4 samples of indoor air, a few samples of outdoor air, and then some samples underneath the slab. There were chemicals of concern that were detected in the indoor air and outdoor air. At the levels they were detected, though, are below the levels, the screening levels that the EPA uses. The subslab sample, they did contain, at least one of them contained perchloroethylene, tetrachloroethylene, at a concentration above that screening level. So the next plan is, they send the letters that in early January, the EPA will be having a contractor come in and do samples in the winter. You want to do samples both in the summer and in the winter because the water levels at different places fluctuates, and that can change what the vapor intrusion is. I used to be an environmental consultant years ago and dealt with vapor intrusion. So, so you want to test it in various conditions. So you want to at least do one in the summer and one in the winter. So they're going to do the winter round. The concerns that I have is, again, formerly being an environmental consultant, is that the tetrachloroethylene being above the screening level underneath the slab is a concern because depending on the condition of that slab and also the condition of walls that may be underground, that's how the vapor can get in. Concrete's porous anyway, so it can still get through, but less so. So I would recommend that right now, my understanding is the basement is not being utilized. I would encourage to keep that at least until we get the results of this next round of sampling. I wouldn't be concerned because the indoor air was below screening levels that in the basement at the other higher floors would have even more ventilation and should be even in better shape. So I wouldn't be really concerned about those. And so also that slab, you know, if there's cracks, if there's fissures in the cracks in the walls, things like that, it needs to be cleaned. But also the vapor can get in through drains and the utilities that flow through the floor. So there's a lot of ways for that vapor to get from the groundwater. What happens is the contamination comes down, gets into the groundwater, and the groundwater carries it to different locations. There were dry cleaners in the area, could have come from that. Also detected was some petroleum, benzene, ethylbenzene, toluene, xylene. Those are all usually gasoline related, and those were detected as well. There's also lots of gas stations in the area. And years ago in downtown areas like this, sometimes you'd have a store that had a gas pump out front years ago, and sometimes they just never dealt with those and just got covered up and left. So who knows where that may be coming from. Those levels were below screening levels, but again, I would just caution the county on using that for the health and safety of county employees and others that might be present in the basement until that further study is done.
And we have that letter here from United States EPA. Anybody that wants it, Sheila can provide them a copy of it. I'm assuming you have a copy of it as well. So, could be a serious issue. That downstairs has been closed off for a couple of years, part of an office consolidation, and literally saved the county thousands of dollars in utility bills with that being closed down. Back in the summer, I met with Carl Cook at that facility, and he was very interested in, and somebody like a Cook Incorporated has the funds to go in and clean this thing up. They've done it many, many times. Was interested in that building and checking through our legal. That building can be donated to a nonprofit. At some point, we need to seriously look at that and eliminate this large liability of the county. I know Joel and I have talked about it, Bob has, you know, it'd be nice for this thing to go away. The one reason that Carl kind of backed off is we have a year's lease left with Kathleen's in the gymnasium area. They're not gonna upset that apple cart, but I think that there's an opportunity there come mid-year for that to happen. So something that we need to consider and talk about as the new board comes on and throughout the next year.
And I will say there are different ways to mitigate that issue. Some is to do like directional boring underneath to where you have perforated pipe that will, and then you put a vacuum on it so it will suck the vapor out so that it keeps a negative pressure underneath the slab so that they won't come up through the slab. Also sealing cracks and making sure utility connections and things like that are all sealed as much as possible help as well. So, but those things can be expensive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's a liability to the taxpayers and money that we don't need to waste.
It can be expensive, but it is doable, and someone with the funds who's interested in the building could it wouldn't be too bad for someone like that to deal with it. But
Are you entertaining questions about this topic from us?
We really hadn't planned on it because it's in the EPA hands, not ours. So until that's done, we can't do anything about it.
Well, I work right there, and I have some questions.
Well, you don't work in the armory.
I don't work in Armored, but I'm a few feet from it.
Well, another point, Jack, too, in the building that you're in now, the health building, used to be a car dealership years ago.
Tractor dealership.
Something, yeah, there was garage doors there, whatever. I don't know if they've done any drilling in that health department or not.
I have
I know
tried.
they have all over the town.
I've talked with EPA, and the way that they decided which buildings that they wanted to test is they went and did some screening through the streets, and going through the streets and finding where they believed that the plume was at, and then picked buildings that was in that area to do the sampling on. So if they didn't sample that building of yours, then they weren't concerned about it. But I would suggest that the questions you have would be best answered by the EPA, and if you get a copy of that letter, and I can send it to you if you want, and the memo I wrote about it, I can send that to you. It is to contact them and express those concerns. And I've expressed concerns. I told them I wanted every county building to have, to be sampled, and they said, nope, we're only sampling what we believe is necessary. And so I did try to get them to sample more, again, because of my expertise, and that they refused to do any more than what they were doing. So the best way to get them to do more is more people contact them and let them know that they're concerned and they want more done in that situation. So
Okay, did the federal or state through Superfund pay for this testing?
yes,
Has Owen County ever paid for any testing in that building?
yes, Owen County paid for not this type of testing. Owen County did pay for some testing of asbestos and some indoor air samples for asbestos, and those were negative. There was no asbestos.
That was in the
detected.
gymnasium area.
Yeah.
Not in the basement.
Not in the basement, but in the gymnasium area, because that was an occupied area. And so there are asbestos materials
A
in
lot
that
of them.
building, quite a bit. But the indoor air in the gymnasium area and the office areas that are on those upper floors all came back negative. But with the type of asbestos there, you have asbestos pipe wrap, which is very friable. Friable means that you can take it in your hand and crush it. And if you can do that, it can get into the air easily. Now, if you have floor tile that has asbestos in it, unless you sand it or something, it's not really a concern. And you'll know it has asbestos if it's 50 years old and it looks like it's 5 years old, it has asbestos. If it's 5 years old and looks like it's 50 years old, it doesn't. Asbestos, was a great material as far as that goes. It was just the dangers of it and how it was used. So there is a concern that if activities in there start disturbing that asbestos, then it could get airborne and it could get be a big concern. So I know the county can't afford to abate that asbestos, but they definitely need to make sure at least that they don't disturb it at a very minimum.
Well, back on the Superfund part of this, so it's your professional opinion or their opinion that the basement should not be occupied? Is that what I understood?
No, they provided this report, and my concern is that they only have the summer testing, they don't have the winter testing, and conditions are different, again, because of water level and the groundwater level and things like that, that I wouldn't be comfortable saying, hey, since it's higher than it should be under the slab, that can't find a way to get more in there, because it was detected in the basement just below their action levels, the screening levels they use. So it was detected in the indoor air, and so that means there's pathways that it's getting into the basement. And since we don't know what it would be in different weather conditions and such, as best when they come in when it's like super cold and sample. And so I just recommend, since you're not using it, just continue not to use it until you really know.
I don't think we want to put anybody's health in danger here. That just makes no sense.
What about the kids upstairs?
The air quality's different up there, upstairs, according to them. Go ahead, Sam.
I'm pretty familiar with Arm, that worked out there for many years. We did the EPA, and I've talked to the EPA about this as well. And it's, those testing and stuff, it's all over the county, doing it everywhere. But any building you go into, you're gonna find air quality terrible. Inside out, it's different, like Republican headquarters, we went through all that. The one thing that they said that for the Armory, when I was there, and they still recommend it today, it's not because it can't be occupied, I mean, it's a recommendation, is the fact you have to have fresh air intake. When you have fresh air intake, it changes those levels quite a bit. So when you have the Armory closed up and it's sealed up like that, those levels always gonna rise. That's the reason when I was down there, when I worked out, always had to have the garage door opened up like this far, and I had a fan on the west wall of my Napa. We turned that on, circulate that, and it was amazing how different those tests was when you had fresh air flowing through compared to when it was sealed up. It was totally different. And so the recommendation, just make sure you got good airflow and open it up on occasions, get the airflow and stuff like that, keep that fan going, and it changed the levels of the testing considerably. I was kind of amazed, but they said the fresh air is your key factor.
I guess we'll find out when they come back in this winter and do some more drilling, and we can go from there. I do know that we had a hot water line going up to the Kathleen's that had a leak in it, and had to get a company in to abate the asbestos to fix this line. It cost us $2,500 to fix a water line because it was wrapped in asbestos.
Gary, you know, it's like anything, they get you over a barrel.
Oh, yeah.
Because stuff like that, you know, because, you know, asbestos or whatever, stuff like that, so they're gonna charge you out the max just to make it look good. But there's
Still a safety concern somewhat.
There's ways to remedy some of your air quality, and it's about in every building around here, I'm sure.
Anything else, Dave?
No.
All right, gentlemen. Down to commissioner comments, I want to bring up a legal service agreement on a week-to-week basis for Dana. Been discussed with Sam moving forward. He's on board with this. I'd like to go ahead and hear a motion to approve the legal service agreement between Owen County and Dana Kerr based on a week-to-week.
I make that motion.
Got a motion by Bob, do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Joel, all in favor? Aye.
And again, it's important to note that this was discussed with Sam Hobbs. He's aware of this. Or everybody wants to jump on social media.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Let's make it perfectly clear now, so social media, I don't do social media, it's probably a good thing. But I spoke to Dana, I spoke to the commissioners, you know, everybody's probably aware there's gonna be significant changes coming to Owen County with the new board. It's all gonna be good. But I don't want people going out and saying, well, now look what they've done, look what they've done. We discussed this, and they never dropped that, something, it's a week-by-week basis. We don't get sworn in until the 27th. By the way, let the commissioners know, the first meeting will be January 9th and not the 8th at 9 a.m. Due to conflict of schedules and circumstances, I have a very important meeting on the 8th that I have to attend, so the first meeting will be January 9th at 9 a.m.
Are we going to have a special meeting the first, second to make those changes for advertisement purposes?
I don't, the thing I was told is all I had to do was, write up something and give it to Sheila so she could give it to the newspaper, and all we got to do is advertise it here on the board.
As long as we know that the changes are going to be posted.
Well, you can do that here and now. If you all choose to change it to January 9th and make a motion and approve it, and then it just would need to be noticed.
Then we'll make the adjustments, some other adjustments on the 9th with the schedule and stuff like that.
Sure.
January 9th, 9 a.m. will be the first meetings.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead and approve the commissioner meeting change from Wednesday, the 8th to Thursday, the 9th at 9 o'clock.
That is correct.
I'll second that.
Got a second by Joel, motion by myself, all in favor?
All right.
But I did agree with what the commissioner
We've got to have coverage moving forward. We never know what kind of disaster is going to happen between now and the 9th. Anything can happen, and you have to have legal counsel. Sam knows as well as I do from the Commissioners' Conference, they make it very clear that legal counsel is the Commissioner's number one concern, and it is. So,
Payday. So it says that he'll get his first pay on the 1st, that's a holiday,
well, it'll fall over to the 2nd. Yeah.
but I won't, and it would have to be out of cycle. And then if you're not meeting until the 9th, I can't do out of cycle.
So he'll get 2 when it comes the second week.
It's fine.
I mean, I can
Let's
call
go.
the 3 of you on the morning of the 2nd and say, can I do an out of claim cycle and go ahead and get it processed?
There'd be no reason for that. I mean, Sheila, my thing, I don't know. I mean, we're not gonna have a meeting till the 9th.
We can do them both on the 9th.
Is that correct?
I mean,
Can we do that, Sheila?
I'm okay with that, I just need it to be
we'll just do
motioned
2
with
pays.
this.
We'll just do 2 pays.
Yes, it has to do an out-cycle claim. But it's,
We'll continue to have to do out of cycle throughout the year. That's just part of the sitting up here in these seats, but that's fine. Joe? Have anything? Bob?
Yeah, it's been a wonderful 4 years, and I think I've accomplished a lot, this board up here and stuff, and I wish the new commissioners all the luck in the world, and everybody have a happy new year and a great Christmas.
thank you.
And I'll say the same thing. Appreciate Bob and Joe both. Joe, you didn't do the full 4 years, but got you in here for 3 of it anyway. Roughly.
2.5.
2.5.
That was
And
enough. That was enough to where, yeah.
we have accomplished a lot. For those that don't stop and think, you know, with the help of a couple of attorneys and Crow, the council, commissioners, and the auditor, we've done it in 4 years, a $10 million turnaround from $4.5 million in the hole to now $5.6 million in the general fund.
And a lot of blacktopping and a lot of bridge
I
building.
will comment, actually. I think it's important to note, a lot of achievements were accomplished in District 3. Greg Melton knows and Chad knows, they both happen to live in District 3, but the gains we've made in 2.5 years there, from a highway standpoint, have been massive. And it doesn't go unnoticed. And I hope that Commissioner Dave Risk can continue chopping away at that. There were a lot of areas out there that have been neglected for many, many years. And with the help of the Highway Department, thank you, Greg, thank you, Chad. We've made a lot of major changes out there. My passion in this situation has been predominantly Highway Department. I enjoyed working with all department heads. But I can assure you that that the Highway Department is the biggest thing that the people, taxpayers look at in this county. All they care about which road they're driving on to work and back. New coming commissioners, you'll find out soon enough that phone will wear you out.
I live in town, so they ain't gonna be paving mine, so.
But it's,
Yeah.
passionate about the Highway Department. I can't thank them and praise them enough. I think they're a wonderful outfit. And I believe everybody else, as far as department heads goes, have done a wonderful job. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't relieved to leave this seat here in about 5 minutes.
Joe, I agree, your district, you've picked it up tremendously over what it's been over the last few years. I don't know what the problem is in District 3, but it was neglected, and you have put a lot of effort into it. So, again, thank you both. It's been a pleasure. Merry Christmas to everyone, Happy New Year, and have safe holidays.
Merry Christmas.